There will be no sweeps. Both the Pacers and the Nuggets enter into their respective game threes tonight, facing an 0-2 hole, and both teams responded with some much needed wins. Let's talk about that.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me Monday through Friday on Locked On Bucks. Joining me is Swipe with Cam from Locked On Nuggets, and we have a lot to talk about. But first, got to share some appreciation with y'all because we appreciate you for tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Today's episode was brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Now, swipe up. The Pacers came home. They were down 0-2. Another really close game between these two teams with the Pacers defeating the Knicks. 106-111, 2-1 lead for the Knicks. Listen, why does every Knicks game have like a heart attack check baked into it?
Well, probably because they're missing 3 starters, right now at this point in the playoffs, which I think is just super impressive for the Knicks that they can be without Julius Randle, who's their second best player. Mitchell Robinson, who's having, a really nice playoff run, especially in defense in the 76ers series. And then obviously no OG, 28 points this last game that he just had. And then they have no OG today. And then literally all that happens is, they pull off Alec Burks off the bench. And Tom Thibodeau's just like, all right, play 44 seconds this whole playoff run. Get on out there and help us win a game. Alec Burks is like, sure. But, putting up 14 points when you haven't played at all this year in the playoffs and then for 21 minutes. And what I will say, the Pacers won this game. They earned it. Nembhard, just an incredible shot to close out that game. And then, hey, Halliburton was nuts today. And again, Hallie, ever since January when he came back from injury, he has not looked like the same player. And that's not his fault. Like the hamstring injury was a big deal. But, man, the New York Knicks being able to battle like they do despite the losses. And I think, the core of their team is having Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Jalen Brunson together on the court. I mean, Josh Hart, 18 rebounds today at 6'4". And what I love about both these teams, they have like different inverted styles, but Halliburton, and then on top of that, you got Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, 26 points today. And then on top of that too, hey, look, Aaron Nesmith, man, he's one of the underrated defenders in the league because he doesn't have a brand name yet, but his ability to put ball pressure on Jalen Brunson, and he's good as a connected defender off ball as well. It made a big difference in tonight's game.
That was a good switch. That was a great move, moving Nesmith onto Brunson, giving him a little bit more length. Even in this game, when Nembhard got back onto Brunson and switches, or if Nesmith was on the bench, Brunson was like, okay, cool. Let me attack this. I feel comfortable with this. But yeah, it was a great game for Aaron Nesmith in this one. And I love that you mentioned that big shot. We talked about the defense here with Nesmith and Nemeth, but listen, Nembhard, that 3.
Yeah.
First of all, when he shot it, I'm not going to lie to you, as soon as he shot it, because that was a grenade. Tyrese Halliburton threw it to him, a couple of seconds left on the clock. Nembhard looked up like, okay, got to make something happen. A step back deep 3. I yelled out, that's not even in your bag, as the ball was going into the hoop. The man had no points heading into the fourth quarter and hit 5 big points for the Pacers in this game. And that's one of the things that stood out to me in this one. It's like the quote unquote role players, player guys, playoffs can really have a time to shine as a role player because you just got to have one good game. It's a small sample size. So if you get a game where Alec Burks, and you said, be dusted off, 13 points in the first half. He did not miss in the first half. Dante DiVincenzo cooking it up when Brunson having some struggles with the defensive changes, but as well, just being beat up. It was a lot of bodies on the floor in this game.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. So, Patriots fans will remember this, Warriors fans too. Nembhard's rookie year, he had that step back versus the Warriors. That like it was like a cross court heave throw, and then hit that 3-point shot to win that game in Golden State. And Nembhard just has a bad like I like his game a lot. He's still development, like he's raw in a lot of ways, but he tries on defense. He's tall, good passer. The shooting can like come and go and all that kind of stuff. But I really like the way he fits next to Hallie. But they're doing this also too with like, no Benny. Like, and again, so like teams at this point are just finding ways to win. Again, and we didn't even mention it. The Knicks don't have Bojan. So like they're without 4 rotational players basically, and they're still making this a fight. And Dante DiVincenzo has probably been one of the stories of the playoffs. I've talked about this a lot, but the Knicks don't have a lot of on-ball creators. Jalen Brunson and then there's Deuce McBride, and it's really Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart. Please attack a closeout, Josh Hart, and get to the rim and finish. That's really what their offense is. Outside of Jalen, boom, 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 snake, pass corner or something like that. Like, and again, Isaiah Hartenstein with his floater. Like, I'm just really incredibly encouraged by those two teams and the adversity they've been able to overcome. But look, Halliburton today, 35 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and especially given the fact that like this is his first playoff run, and then having a chance to do this while managing a little bit of an injury all year since January, and then being able to pull this team from out of a rut. And they're down 0-2, and they needed a good performance from their best player, and they got one. And he made sure to get the shots up in order to do it, even bypass some of the traditional playmaking chops that he would have as well. So, I mean, just across the board, man, like I really love what Indiana's building, and when they're fully healthy as well, they're locked in. Miles Turner, another dude that like in the playoffs, it's like changing the narrative around his name. 21-10 for Miles Turner. And what I love about Miles, he's like really been developing like a lot more of his post game. He tried that one leg Dirk kind of fall away from the nail today, and I was just like, oh, all right, Miles, all right, but he's comfortable, and I love like what he does for them defensively, because it's not like he can stay in front of Jalen Brunson, but because he's a switchable big, it's like, can you contain him on the perimeter long enough for the shot clock to draw down, and that way you can either get a bad shot going up, a rush shot, or you get a kick out and you get a contest. So, I mean, really just the Patriots did a really good job today. And again, like I said, definitely want to make sure I mention that the Knicks were without a bunch of key players today, but the Patriots get to win, and they got to win.
A win is a win. You can only play who is in front of you, and that is what the Pacers did tonight. One last point on this game that I just want to talk about, and that was the going down to the wire here, the last shot. Because hearing Jalen Brunson after the game talk about the shot selection, I love the accountability that he took there, because the game's winding down here. You see Brunson hit that 3, and it's like, okay, the game is tied at 106. Then we get the big Nembhard step back deep 3, which puts the Pacers up 3. Brunson comes back down, tried to do like a step through 3, tried to draw the contact, tried to grift a little bit, did not work. Pacers get the board. They get fouled, 2 free throws. Knicks will make another shot. Game over. After the game, Jalen Brunson called that 3-point attempt just a terrible decision and said that's, quote, something I need to learn from. And I love that, because we've seen this playoff whistle, like trying to grift at the last shot at like that. That's not going to cut it.
But Camille, first off, I love your name because my sister's name is Camille, so that's one of my favorite names in the world. But I'm trying to figure out, Camille, I don't know how old you are. We probably in the same age range. When we were kids, who are we imitating last second shots in the neighborhood? Like when we were in the backyard on a hoop, I wasn't yelling out like foul. You know what I mean? I was yelling out Kobe because I wanted to get the last shot up and get a good. And I'm sitting here, Jalen Brunson, who's been spectacular this playoff run, and I watched him take that 3, and I said, with the game on the line,
same
a griff 3, why? Like, and it's like, you need a 3-pointer. Number one, get a good shot up. Like, why would you even put yourself in that situation? And again, it's not like real criticism. He's been incredible. Like prior to this game, last 6 games, averaging 39 points a game. So he knows what he's doing. But again, I'm glad that he learned from it. But I was disappointed in that moment just because. Well, now he's a grifter, but he's such a smart grifter. Like, when he snake dribbles, like. He's on my pocket. I'm literally just waiting for my defender to get close enough up and just fall all over the place. But it works. Like, look, If you crowd him, you foul him. And he's smart and understands that. But his shot making down the stretch of these games, that 3-pointer that he hit prior to all that stuff happening with Nembhard, I'm
big
just
shot.
like, what? And he couldn't hit anything all day.
Yes. And he hit that one. So I feel you on that. I felt the exact same way. Now, when you were saying who else, I was like, I'm not sure if we're going to go Kobe or you're going to go Jordan. I'm not sure which one you were yelling outside, but listen, the spirit is still the same in both of those. And on the other side of this break, I want to talk about this Denver, Minnesota game. And I can't wait to get your perspective on it as well, because it's been a long time between game 2 and game 3. So let's get into that on the other side of the break. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and the most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less than on 2 or more player stats and you watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks has something for every fan, from basketball and hockey, which is playoff time, y'all. So y'all know it's going down there. Plus baseball. Listen, you can pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, all in the same entry. Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You get quick withdrawals, plus you get easy gameplay and an enormous selection of players and stat types. All of that adds up to make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. I personally love playing Prize Picks. Love the promo on Fridays, the flex play where you get your $20 back. So make sure y'all check that out and download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Check out Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're in the speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you will always find exactly what it is that you're looking for. Plus, with the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. As I mentioned earlier, we appreciate you tuning in to Locked On NBA. And listen, sometimes if you like me, you just like having on sports in the background of your conversation in your day-to-day. Do you find yourself maybe having on ESPN or Fox Sports in the background? You got to turn the volume down because of all that shouting? Well, listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, which is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Check it out on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now, Swiper, like I mentioned, I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this Denver-Minnesota game. Denver walked into Minnesota and laid the smackdown on these dudes, 117-90. Minnesota has a 2-1 lead, but listen, Denver got on the board in a very dominant way. It's been a lot of conversation about the Nuggets this week after going down 0-2 in a surprising fashion at home in Denver, but they responded in a big way in Minnesota tonight.
Look, I'll always, give credit first. I think that the Wolves have been an incredible team the first 6 games of this playoffs. And I told people, like, on every platform possible, Locked On, Bleacher Report, Mile High Sports, Players Choice, my channel, like, the Wolves they're playing super aggressive, like, and they're setting the tone with the physicality. And, like, if you're going to let them dictate terms to you, they're going to lose, just because that's just not the way you can play with them. And so I said that the Nuggets had to do what they always done. They're usually the more physical. They're the more dominant team. They're the smarter team, and they're the more poised team. That's how they win. They might not even outshoot you, but they're going to out-execute you throughout the course of the game. But the problem is the Nuggets hadn't had a game this postseason, Camille, where they had wire to wire said, we're locked in, we're playing until we beat you. Because versus the Lakers, it was like, well, we don't really need to play like 100%, 75, 80, 4-quarter sprint, like that's kind of how they did it. And the Wolves team is like, no, we're going to hunt you down from moment 0 to moment 60 because Anthony Edwards is built that way. Rudy Gobert is built that way. Karl Towns has turned into that. Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Finch, like they just got dudes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so for the Nuggets, it's like game 3, they needed to set the tone. And today they came out swinging. And I think the sleepy thing is, Camille, and Jamal Murray talked about this after the game. This is the best I felt going into a game all playoffs. Like, again, the further Jamal gets away from that initial bruise that he got on his calf, like the healthier he gets, the more his shots start falling, the more heads he tween, bang, bang, bang. And then he started getting those big step backs, then the momentum gets there. He had 8 points in the first quarter. He got past Anthony Edwards and finished around Rudy Gobert, had a nice little 3-pointer, had some middies that he was hitting. And then next thing you know, Jokic is like, oh, cool. Like, they're not collapsing the defense on me. Like, okay, operate, high key, nail, DHO, MPJ. And what happened is the Nuggets started getting momentum.
Yep.
And then they started believing that, like, oh, okay, we actually have a solve for everything you want to do today. And then Jokic was setting some all-time great screens today every time Jaden or Nall was trying to trail. So it was a collection of things, man. And I really think, Camille, their defense, the thing about the Nuggets is they had a number 8 defense in the league this year. They had a number 2 clutch defense in the league this year. That's their calling card. Like, we're going to limit you to 1 possession, 1 shot. And that way, when you try to come down on the other side of the court and get us stopped, we're going to get a 2, we're going to get a 3, and we're just going to basically beat you on a possession-by-possession basis. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. So I just thought they controlled the game. Joker was excellent today. Jamal Porter was excellent today. And I think it was just their overall tenacity that helped them to get that win in game 3.
Yeah, they looked a lot more in control in this game. They did not look like they were getting sped up. Matter of fact, they were the ones dictating the pace to the Timberwolves, like you mentioned. Like, one thing that stood out to me was just how many times that Nuggets offense was able to get the Wolves defense into scramble mode. And a lot of times the Nuggets were not able to recover on those scrambles in a way that we have seen them do throughout the season. Normally that Wolves defense is like, it's on a string. Like, it is so tight that everybody is moving at the exact same right spot. They're showing on 2 when they need to, rotating to the right place. And that was not the case as much tonight. Like, it was very clear looking at how Jokic was playing. I was like, he is playing with so much more internal pace. Like, he was making decisions quicker. It was not enough time for the Wolves to try to be that aggressive. They were just taking advantage of it. Denver was over and over and over again. You got guys knocking down shots. Jamal Murray was looking like himself, like you mentioned. And that's something I tweeted out during the game. Like, not playing since Monday looks like it did wonders for Jamal Murray. Like, I have not seen him look this explosive throughout the playoffs. Like, game 2, 3 of 18 from the field, responded 11 of 21 from the field. And that's part of what made the first 2 losses so shocking, because cutting the heads off of the snake in Denver, like taking Jokic and Murray out, seemed inconceivable. But the the Wolves did that. And tonight the Wolves were able to respond. And also on the other side of that, they didn't turn the ball over. So the Wolves were not able to get out and run as much. And the Wolves offense in return looked like they were actually forcing it a little bit tonight, more than normal.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And I remember Wolves fans got mad at me. They were like, well, I was like, yeah, I don't think the Wolves offense is going to sustain what it's doing in the playoffs right now. Like, they're hitting a lot of shots. And like, because that's the thing. When you're in control, Camille, you notice, like, you covered the team, I imagine, during the finals in 2021.
I did not. This was my first season covering Locked On.
Right.
The Bucks, yeah.
But you watched that series versus the Bucks.
Of course.
The Suns were up 2-0, and they're like, they're feeling good. Shots were going down. Their defense looks good. All of a sudden, the Bucks were like, all right, well, let's turn up the physicality, turn up the size, turn up the paint present. Giannis, go. Chris start bing, 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 hitting shots. Drew Holiday's locking up. Bobby Portis, Brooke, they're big. They're playing monstrous. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, the Suns can't hit the shot they used to, because now your confidence isn't there. Now you're sore. Now you're tired. And now if you're 2-2 tied, it's like, well, dang, we were just up 2-0. Now is we're in a situation where we might be looking at getting down 3-2. And that's how the Bucks were able to do that. That's how the Clippers did it to the Mavs. That's what happened, with the there was another series recently too, but like it's just like when you are in this situation, when you're at the bottom and you're down 0-2, you just have to let the other team know that there's something that you can't stop anymore because we've adjusted to your main strength, and now we're just gonna take advantage. And Camille, what they did today, and this is why Michael Malone's such a good coach, and why Jokic and Murray and Malone is such the trio is so like amazing. What they did today is they said, oh, so y'all going to blitz Jamal Murray every pick and roll every time we do high key, right? Okay. Empty side pick and roll the whole first quarter. Mm-hmm. So what happened is now Jamal Murray driving baseline. All right, who coming with me? Who coming with me? Who coming with me? All right, bet. Nobody? Cool. Step back.
Yep.
Or nobody's coming with me. I'm sinking all the way underneath the rim. I'm finishing or kicking out. Or this time, who's coming with me? Everybody's dragging. Jokic is at the nail. Now Jokic got some mismatch, or you got a 2-on-1 at the rim or in the corner. Mm-hmm. So like that's what I'm saying. Like that's what basketball is. That's why I love basketball so much, because you have to really dive in to the nuances of how you can expose even the Wolves. The Wolves have so much length. They're so physical. But the thing is, if you get them running horizontally, they're not going to have the same foot speed. So that's how you take advantage of elite defenses. And they just did such a great job of that today.
And one other thing I'll even point out before we move on, you mentioned the Jamal Murray actions that he was running as well, but I also loved how they were using Aaron Gordon kind of like as a safety valve as well, like because Murray was seeing so much pressure. Like, let Gordon bring the ball up. He got his size. Let him use the length. Let him bring the ball up and then get into the offense from there. So just some really smart minor adjustments for the Nuggets to help them get back into looking like the Denver Nuggets that we saw win it all.
Camille, what do you think that does for you? Like if you're a lead guard and you've been dealing with pressure, what do you think it does for you if you have like Aaron Gordon or Christian Brown, or for Dame, it could be a Patrick Beverly, or it could be, Cameron Payne, when he was still with the team. Like, what does it do when you allow for like a lead guard to get set in half court and they don't have to bring the ball up versus pressure?
Well, one, you're not as tired because you're not wasting the first few seconds of the shot clock trying to get past pressure and having somebody knocking against you the whole time, trying to throw your rhythm off. It helps you be able to get into your own rhythm because you're going to get the ball. You didn't have to go through those, 4 or 5 seconds of pressure. You get the ball, you get to survey things. Now you get to initiate your offense at your own speed. No one's speeding you up anymore. It's back at your own pace. And that's invaluable when you're running an offense because you want to dictate it to the defense. You don't want the defense to dictate how you're going to play the game. So it just helps. That freedom helps so much on the other side for the point guard. So love seeing Denver make that adjustment. But listen, I don't think game 4 is going to be easy. It's going to be one of those ones where Minnesota got smacked in their mouth. So how do they respond? Because this is the first loss they've taken in the playoffs so far. So cannot wait to see that. Yeah, same here. Cannot wait to see that. All right. So before we get out of here, we have to talk about the Saturday slate of games because it's just such a good semifinals this year. So after the break, we will preview the next 2 games coming up in the playoff slate. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk a bit about Monopoly Go. Listen, I know you're probably like, I've heard so much about this game, but there is just so much good in Monopoly Go. We have to tell you about it. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there is so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for bigger prizes. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. You can even get hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or you heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure, which how can you beat digging for treasure? Plus, there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, 2 big games coming up on Saturday here. And both the Thunder and the Celtics are going to hit the road looking to regain home court advantage after losing game 2 in their respective series. So as we head back on the road back home for these teams, listen, do you think that Dallas or Cleveland are going to be able to hold up at home in these games? Because when you look at that Boston-Cleveland series, let's start there actually, because that's the series and most people are kind of like, we expect Boston to win. But Cleveland showed a little something in game 2. So going back home, do you think Cleveland can hold up at home with Boston looking to, they look back after losing at home in game 2?
So that's so interesting. So that's a really good question. So Cleveland is undefeated at home so far this playoffs. That's a sneaky thing. Donovan Mitchell has been dominant so far this playoffs. Donovan Mitchell is currently the best player in the Cleveland-Boston series right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're
can't argue
going
that.
home, best player in the series, undefeated at home, 1-1. Here's the thing. Before the series, honestly, I predicted Boston in 6. I still think they're going to win in 6 because I just think that Boston, their talent is going to win them the matchup. The problem is that Boston shot 47. I tracked this all year. 47% of their shots from 3. They're an amazing 3-point shooting team. But as you know, if you get hit with shot variance at all, offense falls apart. And that's what happened that third quarter. Cleveland started executing. Donovan Mitchell slashing, passing out to Garland. Strus is hitting threes. Evan Mobley's getting post touches. Like, they're just able to move the ball around. So some of this is going to be like, look, can Cleveland get Boston on the move defensively? Because no Kristaps Porzingis. Al Horford's not Kristaps, not as mobile. Can you get them confused enough defensively to get enough open gaps in your offense to create? And then on the other end, like, look, man, Derek White's been the best player for offensive player for the Celtics so far this playoffs. And then it's been Jaylen Brown. But Jason Tatum ain't been great. And Jason Tatum is not shooting well. And he's even grifting for some foul calls a little bit when he has clear advantages in this series. I would try to make it as difficult as possible for their main players to get easy looks. I don't want them getting no rhythm. I don't want Jason Tatum ever feeling comfortable in this series if I'm Cleveland. And then if I'm on the other end, look, Jason Tatum, mismatch hunting, Donovan Mitchell, mismatch hunting, Darius Garland. I'm putting him in the post as much as possible. I want him to get easy touches around the rim. And if they try to collapse, kick out Jaylen Brown, swing, Drew Holiday in the corner, and then we do what we got to do on from there. So I think this is going to be a fascinating game.
I would agree with that. And I also want to see on the Cleveland side if Donovan Mitchell can continue to get help. Because you mentioned Evan Mobley, the front court scoring has been a disadvantage for the Cavaliers in this series, and Evan Mobley responded big time in game 2. Karis LeVert, we saw Karis LeVert wake up. He had 21 in game 2. So, if they can get some more help, if guys can hit shots, and normally when you're at home, that's when the role guys tend to play a bit better. So hopefully it can be a Max Strus game for Cleveland. Somebody else stepping up for Cleveland alongside Donovan Mitchell. So that is going to be a fun one to watch. In addition to that, we also have the Thunder and the Mavericks. For the first time in that game 2 loss, the Thunder looked a little bit like a young team. Like it was shining through a little bit for them. But Dallas being able to take game 2 on the road with Kyrie only scoring single digits, like the Mavericks have to feel pretty good about that going into game 3. But the concern there is just the health. Like Luka Doncic has been getting beat up throughout this series, finding a way to respond. So the question is going to be, how will the Thunder respond to their first loss of the playoffs as well?
Well, the Thunder had the opportunity to play versus a team with no Zion, so they haven't had a real, punch yet because I just think like the teams or whatever, But look, the Mavs story is this. It's the same thing as it was in 21. Make your threes, you win. Don't make your threes, you lose. Because if Luka's on the ball, that's what's happening. He's creating 3-point shots. He's the best at it in the league. Are you going to hit your shots? PJ Washington. Are you going to hit your shot? Tim Hardaway Jr. If you do, great. Daniil Gafford, get on the board, rebound, get those putbacks, all that stuff. But that's what it was. They shot 49% from 3.
Yeah.
And they were 18 of 37 and they won by 9 points, which is great. But PJ Washington 7 of 11 again. Are you relying on that? Luka was even 5 of 8 himself. I think he was 5 of 35 in his previous 40 shots prior to that game or something like that. So look, this is just the way the Mavs are going to have to win. I think the Thunder are just a better team. SGA, solid. J-Dub, solid. Chet, And then on top of it, Isaiah Joe, Casey Wallace, like they just got a bunch of dudes. And they're just smart players. And forget the youth. They believe they can win. So they got a better defense, and they have, I think, even a similar high floor offense as the Dallas Mavericks will. And I think they have a coaching advantage as well. So, you know, even if Dallas wins this next game, I think it's going back to OKC 2-2.
Yeah, I had the Thunder winning this series as well. But let me ask you a question as we wrap up here, because one thing that was really interesting to me in game 2 was Josh Giddey and seeing just him head to the bench and the Thunder decide to go a different way. They didn't get the win in game 2 with him on the bench, but I mean, they weren't good with him in the game either. Like game 3, are you expecting Giddey back in the rotation heavily? Yes. Or do you think this is a trend? Okay.
No. He's gonna play. He's gonna get at least 10 minutes. And if I'm the Mavs, I'm like, oh, just dominate the Giddey minutes. Dominate the Giddey minutes. He was a minus 20.
Yes.
As soon as he's out of the game, Luka, go cover Giddey. Just help off ball. Just help off ball. That's all we're doing. So look, if I'm them, Wiggins is playing. Casey Wallace is playing. I'm absolutely loading up. Like, I'm going to absolutely put another player out there that's going to give me more off the dribble, off the catch, and defensively than Josh Giddey. It's not that Josh is a bad player, but he just doesn't have playoff portability. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. If you're going to keep him out there, let's hope he does. Matter of fact, I hope he makes the three-pointer in the first quarter. That way Mark is like, you know what? This might be the Josh Giddey game.
Give him some more ticks. Like, the man,
he's a good player. No, he's a good player, but it's like, well, what role do you serve in a playoff series versus the Mavericks? Like, are you guarding someone on ball? Are you an off ball defender? And then if you're not like an elite, and then if you're not holding the ball offensively, then it's like, well, what are you doing? Are you floor spacing? Well, I'm living with that every day of the week. I'm collapsing on it. Every single time SGA try to drive, I'm collapsing every time.
As you should. And I mean, that's the thing with playoff series as we wrap up here today. Like, if your team makes it all the way, like, you will see your team go through different series where different things are required. Josh Giddey just might not be his series, but who knows if they get past here, who knows what the future may hold and what role he might play going forward. But the Saturday slate should be really good. So if you're listening to this, I'm just assuming you would be on Saturday. Enjoy the games. For Spipe and myself, we're going to get out of here. Have a good one, y'all.